Hey everybody, welcome back to Backlog Banter. I'm your boy Abram, joined as usual by Andrew Orozco, and we're here again for my Star Wars show. And it's a very special episode today because we're doing something topical, and we're talking about the Book of Boba Fett, even though it ended now a couple weeks ago. But if you want to share your thoughts about the Book of Boba Fett or anything else at all, be sure to join our Discord link as usual, top of the description way down there. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell. Because if you don't, Obi-Wan Kenobi will be as mixed in terms of quality as the Book of Boba Fett, and it'll be your fault. So make sure you do all three of those things for me today. But Andrew, I kind of showed my cards there a little bit. I, on the whole, am fairly mixed on Book of Boba Fett.
Oh yeah.
I think that it is not a very well assembled show. I think it's full of very exciting individual episodes, but there's basically no backbone to the show, and that's what I want to talk about. But before we really delve into that, I want to know your kind of high level impressions of all 7 episodes now of Book of Boba Fett.
High level impressions. Oh boy. Okay. First of all, the show should have never been called The Book of Boba Fett.
Right.
It should have just been Boba Fett and Friends. Although I know that's probably not, from a marketing standpoint,
Right.
there's some issues there, right? But not very marketable. But honestly, we've talked about this before. Like when it comes to no Star Wars or Star Wars, I will always take more Star Wars.
Yes.
Even if it's not always coherent, cohesive, top quality Star Wars, I'll take Star Wars no matter what. So like just thinking about I remember back to when we did our first impressions video about the first episode. We were like, "Oh, I hope I hope these backflashes aren't a huge thing." And like, oh man, are they ever present throughout the entire show? Um, I like on overall, I give the series like probably like a 6.5, maybe 7 out of 10,
Sure.
depending on how I'm feeling at any given moment. There's obviously some stronger episodes. I know for example, you really like Chapter 2, the second episode.
Yes.
I do think that's one of the better ones. Especially, I like the little trope of like man trains local, indigenous tribe to take on foreign threat. I know
Yeah.
it's kind of a trope, but I do like how I do enjoy how this show does that, especially with like the train sequence and the Lawrence of Arabia homages and all that stuff. It's great stuff. And then we get, like I mentioned, I pulled up the episode list because towards the middle, if you asked me where the Rancor showed up, that sounds like a trivia question, and I'd be like, episode 3, maybe 4. I think it is episode 3 now that I'm
Yes.
looking at it. Yeah, okay, so I probably would have got that one right. And then we get like chapter 4 with the really confusing backtrack quest for the armor, the Beskar armor. Um, Going to the Rancor pit. I'm not Rancor pit. The
So I like
Sarlacc
that.
pit.
Yeah.
Sarlacc pit, looking for the armor, thinking maybe it might have fallen back in there. I don't know. And then we kind of just give up that plot point and we just move forward for some reason. Although dope death charge scene. I'm a sucker for a good death
Yes,
charge.
you are.
Moving on, we get then at episode 5. I remember episode 4 ends with we get the little Mandalorian little jingle, and it's like, oh, like
Yeah.
Din's coming back. And we go to chapter 5, and it's basically just a Mandalorian episode. It's
Yeah.
Mandalorian 2.5 season prologue, whatever you want to call it. Nothing to do with Boba Fett until like the last 2 minutes with Fennec, and even then, it's still not Boba. It's just Fennec. And then we get to episode 6, which is one of my more favorite ones, mainly because I'm a sucker for like anything Western related.
Yeah.
As you kind of figure out what I'm talking about towards the end of the episode, we have a really dope Mexican standoff, and then we get to the series finale, the mini series finale, which is just very very little build up, kind of just all over the place. It's a good action set piece. We get those dope moments with a Boba and Din both charge out with their jetpacks, do the thing where like they're covering each other, look like Army of Two or something, where they're
Yeah.
just kind of like covering each other, taking hits because they're wearing armor. It doesn't do anything, it just makes them fall down. And then we have these massive spider robots, and then the Rancor does this King Kong pose for a minute, and it's just all over the place. It's a mixed bag. It's really a mixed bag.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think it's an issue of structure because my interest in Boba Fett, Book of Boba Fett, fell off with episode 5 precipitously because then it wasn't the Book of Boba Fett anymore.
Right, right.
Because I mean, I love The Mandalorian, but I'm not here to watch The Mandalorian. Here, as the show kind of wrapped, and I was thinking back on it, I think that not only should the show have not been called The Book of Boba Fett, I don't think it should have been about Boba Fett.
Right.
If I were to make this show, I would have had an hour and a half long premiere, which basically tells the story of those first two episodes, which I think are, in my opinion, maybe the show's strongest. Establish Boba's backstory, and then go immediately into I need a team to help me defend Mos Espa, and then have a series of episodes that are basically just vignettes. One for Din, one for Cobb Vanth, one for Chrysanthemum, one for the mods, and then have that season finale.
It's like freaking like Mass Effect or something, kind of.
Basically, do like a series of vignettes about each of these characters who have some sort of reason to link back into this sort of overarching concept of we have to protect Mos Espa. Because then it could have been a series of kind of tighter character studies, and then the structure would have inherently not mattered that we're jumping between perspectives, because it just would have been the conceit of the show, not oh, we're going to wake up one Wednesday morning and now the entire cast and plot are just completely gone. Because that's what happened. And it has just so happens that we got very good directors to do those episodes. Well, to do 5 and 6, I want to talk about Robert Rodriguez's direction for 7, which really put a damper on my enjoyment on that episode. But I think Bryce Dallas Howard is one of the best directors to ever touch Star Wars since Lucas. And I would love to see her get a feature film. I think she would knock it out of the park.
That would be dope, because then it'd be like a father and daughter kind of thing. They both each did a Star Wars movie. That would be dope.
Yeah, I think that there was good talent there, but it was just completely. It's actually very similar to just the sequel trilogy itself. I mean, J.J. Abrams, great director. Rian Johnson, great director. And nobody had any idea what was going to happen, so there was no connective tissue between anything. And Book of Boba Fett just feels that same way for me. And I just don't really like a lot of those creative decisions they made, particularly in episode 6 with the Luke stuff, which I just found really uncanny and off-putting. I think I'm in the minority there, but all of the deep fake Luke stuff, it just felt like we had traveled so far away, not only from where the show began, but just from the spirit of expanding the universe, that I think we just got so lost in Dave. Okay, now it's Dave Filoni's turn to come in and just to do something. And that really, I think, killed the momentum of the entire series.
Yeah, it reminds me of how in our last, was it our last? No, 2 episodes back that we did about our hot takes.
Yeah.
And we talked about how we don't need more Jedi, we don't need more Force stuff. And because I feel like when we do get that stuff, it kind of takes the focus away. Like them building the temple, it's like, okay, this is the temple we're going to see later in the Force Awakens and stuff. And then I have issues with the choice that Grogu's presented with, just because. We'll get into that in a little bit, but just the whole framing of here's Grogu, you take you can go with your father figure or this guy who you just met who's making you do a lot of stuff that you probably don't really care for. You know what I mean? Like because you belong to them because they say you belong to the order. I don't know, but back to it reminds me so much of you must have seen the meme right now where it's. Cobb Vanth comes out and says, "Is that a Nabooian, NB1 or whatever?" And then Mando says, it started off that way. And it's the meme's is that the Book of Boba Fett? He's it started off that way, right? Because, you're right. It is jarring. We're, just halfway through the show. It's here's, it's when they do, those, special episodes for, a sitcom or something. We're okay, it's going to be the serious episode or something. And it's just really, wait, what? That had nothing to do with Boba. We have 7 episodes, and we have 2 episodes left after this. Are we not going to have a tighter kind of mob story of what's going on so far with Boba? And it's just you're right. The show should have probably been called Mos Espa or something, or I guess again Boba and Friends probably not the greatest, but that's I think that's the most accurate title other than the Book of Boba Fett. Which book? Why? I don't know. It just is.
Yeah.
So, I'm curious to see what you think. Abra, what did you think about the modders? Because I think every single person I've talked to took issue with I think the slow bike chase is weird, but also they just don't like these pucky, teenage youth, just romping around Tatooine. Yeah. What do you think about that?
First of all, that speeder bike chase, I think, is probably the worst sequence in modern Star Wars. I mean, I have no fucking idea how anybody looked at that and said that they're even moving at the right speed. Just speed the footage up.
They're not speeder bikes. They're just bikes. Bikes.
That I think is absolutely the low point of the entire show for me. but I actually like the mods. I think that Star Wars sometimes needs to embrace that weirdness more. And from a kind of lore perspective, I love the idea of these cyborgs of, oh, we're gonna put droid parts into ourselves, and that's kind of how Fennec came back to life. I like this almost like cyberpunky element that they introduced.
Yeah.
The problem is that they just didn't really have any time because there's like a lot of them, but we only know the one that looks like Felicity Jones, but isn't Felicity Jones.
I was thinking the same thing. Yeah.
And it,
Just like yeah.
and then the other guy who I don't know his name, but he's the one that everyone freaked out because he like dropped to do a spin in the final episode on Twitter, which was insane. Because who cares?
It
But
does
there,
look. It does look funny though. It does look funny.
it looks funny, but it's literally blink if you miss it. It's like half of this the fun is like the operatic stuff of Star Wars. It's those cool moments. Like okay, he did a spin, whatever. But it's like we needed an episode. I really think we need an episode again for the mods and for Chrysanthemum, who I think are some of the best characters in the show, but just don't have really any time to do anything other than just show up. And I think that's a disappointment.
I do like just mentioning the mods and Chrysanthemum. I love how Boba can have like these encounters and situations with these people,
Yeah.
and instead of just being like old school, like I'm just gonna kill you, it's like no, it's like this person has potential, right? Like he does the smart thing where it's like here's this problem: these hoodlums or kids or whatever are like stealing from the locals, and it's
Yeah.
like you're presented with a situation. It'd be easy to kill them or just whatever. But he's like, I can solve two. I can, a good leader should think like, I can solve two issues with one stone kind of thing, right? Two birds.
Yeah.
I'll reimburse you, and if you guys don't have anything to do, like, why don't I just hire you? I need muscle, you need work. Let's just work together. I love that. And he does the same thing with Black Chrysanthemum, where like, it was again the Wookiee tries to kill him, and he's like, you know what, like. You need a job. Like those guys, like they kind of just threw you out, to the wild. Like, why don't you like work for me? And like begrudgingly, he's like yeah, sure, why not, right? Like his ability to like diffuse the situation and like kind of see opportunity where most people would not see opportunity, I think is one of Boba's strengths. Although at times I do want to agree with Fennec, where it's like you're way too like easy on everybody. I think also.
Yeah.
It's not conductive, I think, to be super relaxed and like, let me give you a chance. It's like when people are insulting you and you're just kind of like, just going to be stoic and just, I'll come up with a solution. And it's just like, I don't know, but was making you look kind of weak. So there's situations where it works. Some situations where, just from a story perspective, it just feels like we need to keep this person around because they're important outside of the show and we can't just kill them off just quite yet, right?
Yeah. I think what is something I think of a hot take considering the ways that people have been criticizing the show is that I actually like all that stuff about Boba. I think that the characterization of Boba Fett is one of I think the consistently strongest elements of the show and part of why I felt disappointed that we kind of dumped him for the second half because when we really analyze Boba Fett in the context of the canonical material we have for him, we know nothing about him, right? And I feel like this show gave us an opportunity to contextualize him beyond the guy who just stood like calmly in the background with a E4 with an E4 blaster rifle and just looked badass. But now he became multidimensional. And I thought the idea of him giving these people the second chances and running Mos Espa differently and being the Daimyo and all this, I found that to be really compelling. And it made, I think, Boba Fett feel fresh, and we still get the moments of him
Sure.
being that badass bounty hunter we know.
Right.
One of my favorites is in episode 2 when he's going after the guys running the train, and he goes into that bar where the gangsters are roughing up the tenants and taking money and everything, and he comes in and just wipes the floor with them, right? I think we get cool Boba Fett moments, the knee
Yeah.
rockets in episode 7, but we
That was cool. That was
we,
cool.
we also get an actual character out of Boba Fett as opposed to just a bounty hunter caricature, and I think that is in those first 4 episodes, even though I think 3 and 4 are of very uneven quality, he was really why I was watching the show.
No, yeah, I agree. Everything with Bob. I mean, yeah, because like for some reason we have I don't know if it's like the Mandela effect or something where everybody just thinks that Boba's really badass, and it's like you do remember how the guy went out, right? Like
Right.
he got his backpack struck by a blind man, does a Wilhelm scream across the screen into the bar, falls over and just disappears, and like that's
Yeah.
it, right? But because he looks cool, because the armor looks cool, because people love a mysterious, man in
Yeah.
uniform and all that, like we come, with a head cannon and like some of the older books kind of fill that in for us. We kind of like seeing Boba restrained, seeing him as like this captive, like in the first two episodes, and then seeing him kind of just not going straight to violence. I feel like a lot of people, I think Boba makes like, I don't know, maybe I'm imagining this, but it's kind of like one of those like, don't you shouldn't see inaction as a sign of weakness kind of thing. Because Boba's definitely, I mean, he's mostly just doing a lot of talking for the most part, but that stuff is compelling to see how he's
Yeah.
able to craft this ragtag team of different specialized people from the local population to like serve as like the whole spice thing is like he still wants to like run the town, right? He still wants to be a gangster and all that, but like he understands a healthy populace, not one that's like on drugs and all stuff like that's ultimately conductive to the well-being of his little miniature kingdom or whatever, right? What did you think about like the end though, Abram? Because I feel like I don't know if maybe in the Clone Wars they expand more on it, but having Cad Bane show up in the second to last episode, and then they have the showdown, and it's like, are we supposed to be like there was like no build up for this? Like, are we supposed to feel like like this is what I've been waiting for all season long? You know what I mean? What did you think about that?
I feel like as I get older, I feel like Dave Filoni is less of a great creative visionary and more of a
Uh
guy
oh.
who
Uh
knows how
oh.
to please a crowd. And I think that really came through in episode six. Because Dave Filoni heralded in such an exciting era of animated Star Wars with Clone Wars and Rebels, and nothing that can ever be taken away from him. But I think that his work in particular, whenever he came back in Mando, giving us a Ahsoka or something, or coming back here to give us Cad Bane and then Luke and Grogu and all this stuff, like he's there to tip his cowboy hat he always wears and please the crowd.
Just like Cad.
Yeah, but I just don't think that services the story, and that's kind of my biggest problem with bringing in Cad Bane because he's really cool. I,
Hmm.
I think the people who are complaining that like he's not blue enough or whatever, it's kind of ridiculous. I think it's actually a lot better like realization of that animated Cad Bane than I could have ever really expected. I think they actually do a nice job with him visually and capturing his ethos. Like when he shoots that when he shoots the deputy
Jesus Christ. Yeah.
like six times, like lays it, like whips it out, boom, 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 six times. I mean, they really capture Cad Bane, but I can't help but ask myself, like, why is Cad Bane even here? Because
Yes.
because if you wanted to do Cad Bane, I think you needed to a introduce him earlier in the show,
Yes, absolutely.
and b
Or at
give
least hinted to him like earlier at least.
yes. What I would have done if you want to keep him a mystery, a late stage reveal, why couldn't he have been the one that killed the Tusken Raiders? Because why couldn't he have been hired earlier by the Pike Syndicate?
Oh.
Because what we learn is that he
That would have made
didn't.
it more personal at least.
Yeah, he didn't
Yeah.
actually. He did. He's not the one that killed the Tuskens. He's just the one that tells Boba Fett that the Pikes killed the Tuskens.
Right.
And if you want to draw their rivalry from the Clone Wars forward, I think that's a compelling idea of just like weaving all of this Star Wars canon because a lot of the animated stuff gets like left in that silo. Like bringing that to live action, carrying that plot line forward is cool, but it's not. It's shoehorned in, and I think even in the context of what is already a pretty thin storyline for Boba Fett, you could have more organically woven him into it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think yeah, if he was that hinted at earlier or something
Yeah,
like where they would have said like I don't know that the Pikes have some muscle or like someone like besides just Black Chrysanthemum early on or
yeah.
just some kind of I don't know. Does Cad Bane have like a musical cue or a motif? I don't know if he has a theme or not. Like at
I
least
mean,
sprinkled in,
yeah.
maybe. I don't know if he has one or not. But it just the whole thing about him being blue enough, I find that really funny because I'm just thinking like, well, he's on Tatooine. I don't know if everything's lighter in the sand. You know what I mean? But I loved his teeth. I love that effect with his teeth where he like talks. He has like this like
Yeah,
kind of growl and like I think it's the same voice actor right from the show from the Clone Wars.
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah, he has like that growl. He has like that menacing, just the menacing demeanor, the dead like redness of his eyes and everything. Like he looks really dope. Although his hat is like a little smaller, but then it would, Clone Wars comically just proportionate. We don't see Count Dooku with like a 5 foot long thin face, right? So
Yes.
the smaller hat, I don't mind that. I wish he would have used his rocket shoes though. I know he has rocket shoes in Clone Wars. That would have been
Yeah.
that would have been cool. Just a little rocket fight between them or something. I don't know much. I mean, I remember seeing him in the Clone Wars. Like, there's like the one where they invade like I think it's the Senate and they hold it
Yes.
like hostage.
Yeah.
But like he says to Boba like that he's known him for a long time. And I'm like, is there like a deeper history there? Is
There,
it?
so there is.
Okay.
The problem is when we start to reach back for Clone Wars storylines, I have to like try to recall the media I was watching at 9:30 in the morning when I was 9 years old. And because of that, I've honestly forgotten exactly how that storyline played out. But
Okay.
they did have not only an established rivalry there, but there was, I can't remember if it was for Rebels or for Clone Wars. I want to say it was for Rebels, but there was another arc planned that continued their storyline and brought that to a conclusion. And you can go on
Okay.
YouTube and find like the previs, like really basic wireframe models of animation for those episodes, because a lot of that stuff ended up being posted online. It's like deleted
I do
content.
remember seeing that. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so there is history between them. So I don't think that Cad Bane as a premise was bad to put in a Boba Fett show. I just think that, again, a lot of my issues with the show just come down to the execution.
Execution. Yeah.
Because even Black Chrysanthemum, he's the kind of quote unquote recognizable character that I love to see brought into live action, because the animated stuff is great. I loved seeing Ahsoka come back and everything, but the comics have a lot of really rich and interesting characters and ideas that just they really stay there. If there's very little crossover between live action and animated, there's even less crossover between the comics and kind of
Right.
everything else. So bringing Chrysanthemum over was super super cool. But
My only issue with the whole, I mean, not my only issue. The last issue I want to bring up with Cad Bane is just that for the last episode, like for the majority of the fight, he's not even there. He just walks off, kind of does like the, come in boys kind of thing. And then he only shows up at the very end once everything's taken care of. It's like, all right, okay, I guess I'll come out now. And it's like, it's just kind of silly. Where it's like, you should have been like in the fight, but like, I don't know, maybe because he's like hired, he can like, nah, like I'll wait till things die down. I don't know. It just seemed really funny that he was not present for the actual fight. He was just off doing his own thing. It's like, all right, I guess I better do something. Like I'm getting paid to do something, so let me show up. And then the funniest moment where he tells Boba how like he is older, but he's also quicker than Boba.
yeah,
But then at the end, it seems like Boba was actually quicker than him with like the scaffy stick and everything. And I'm just like, okay, the dialogue doesn't always line up with what we see, but okay, I'll let it pass. I'll let it pass. And then we get to like these really like it looks like a spider combined with like a droideka. These massive
Yeah.
like, all right, let's throw in one more thing in there. And it's just these two just massive droids that they cannot deal with. They're just like completely outmatched. They do like the funny thing. They try to do like the thing in Clone Wars where Ahsoka and Anakin are training the militia to like slowly roll like stuff under the shields, right? But like
yeah.
nothing gets through until they eventually. What was the MacGuffin or what was the thing they finally got through? I forget.
In this,
Yeah.
it was the Rancor.
That's right.
Yeah.
Rancor. We had the payoff for the Rancor at least.
Yes.
Although it was a lot bigger than I remembered it being when we first were shown it. So I was wondering too, like for the longest time after, I'm like, is Danny Trejo coming back? Like, does any of this matter? And so we had the Rancor at the end. I'm like, okay, there's the payoff for the Rancor. So I thought that was cool. I like when they have like big big scene machines and like have our little like Godzilla moment, right? Or King Kong moment, right? With the scaling the tower.
Yeah.
My thoughts are kind of frazzled. I was sad to see that they killed off what was her name? I forgot her name. Jennifer Beals character with the casino and everything.
Oh, the Twi'lek who
Garsa Fwip. Garsa Fwip, that's
Okay,
her name.
cool.
She just they that whole like establishment is gone, and that was like where we started off with episode 7. I was like, I actually liked her character. I wanted to see her like in further future stuff. So I was kind of
Yeah, I thought that was a really good moment in the show, and it didn't go anywhere, and that kind of bummed me out because we don't get a ton of her, but we do. She becomes sort of a fixture in Mos Espa.
hmm
It's her watering hole that we always return to, and I think that's kind of fun.
it's
But
like the central hub kind of in a way. Yeah,
yeah, and so when the Pikes blow it up, like that should be a gut punch, and it just ends up not really being that, right? I
not
mean,
quite that.
yeah,
Yeah.
we strike in the distance of it, but I think so. Here's the thing about me and Star Wars. Like Star Wars, it's interesting to me. I think that for me, there's some franchises that just transcend the media that they are. So what I mean is like when I think of my favorite movies, I don't even always think of Star Wars first because like to me, Star Wars is just this thing that's always in my life.
It's a given. Yeah.
Yeah, and where I'm leading to here is that a lot of the times when I'm watching Star Wars content, I'm curious in terms of the characters and the lore. It's hard for me sometimes to even look at Star Wars through the technical lens I might bring to Quest or whatever, because I don't really watch it for the production as much. The reason I say all of this is because I have to talk about the production because I think Robert Rodriguez really screwed up the final episode from a technical perspective. I really think that if somebody else had been directing that last episode, even if it played out largely the same way, I think it would have been better. I just feel like a lot of his direction was very weightless. It was just so much CGI and so many moving pieces, and
Okay.
it just big Rancor comes and knocks the big faceless droid over and all of this. It just the,
Spectacle.
it's spectacle, but it's not even personal spectacle. It feels like it feels like we had to rush there, which I understand is not really his fault. But I just feel like his style of action directing worked so well when it was really personal in Mando season 2 when Boba Fett is arrives to save Din and Grogu and he's beating the shit out of stormtroopers with the gaffy stick there, and it's those crazy shots that pan up and it's crazy-eyed Boba Fett and all of that. But when we're trying to have this big like multi-street whole town battle, I just don't think his style did a whole lot there. Like when when Bryce Dallas Howard directs Mando dragging the dark saber along the ground and cutting a guy in half, and we see like his body fall through the butcher the plastic that separates the freezer from the other room.
That's a
Like
cool shot. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, there's a certain like directorial intent there that I didn't feel in the finale, and that just ended up being a disappointment because the action just felt impersonal and very computer generated.
To simplify, I think you're saying in layman's terms, I do feel like it's a lot less cinematic. If that's I think it
Yes.
sounds like you're going for is like the finale, whereas like the episodes with Mando just have like this like heavy kind of tone to it, where it's
Yeah.
like there's almost like a sense of like dread or brooding kind of where like you can come in alive or I can bring you in dead. It's like or cold. I'm sorry, he says cold, right? Like
Yeah.
however you want. And then like we had like that tension, right, where he's surrounded by these guys, and he's kind of doing like the Western thing, where he's going for the hip, he's going for the hip, and then the guy blasts his hand, and so okay, well this element of surprise is over. Let's just try to see how we can do, finish this moment, like just sloppily, just with the weight and just slashing and
Yeah.
slicing, and it's just kind of, and I think there's like an extra layer of like kind of sinisterness. I don't know if that's a term, but like with I think any movie that has like a butcher or the back of like a meat room with like
Yeah.
cold storage, like nothing good is gonna happen in a back room, right? You know what I mean? Where like you just have this sense with like the plastic flaps, like this. It felt almost like it was setting up for like a horror scene. I think I get a horror vibe when I ever see like butcher meat lockers and stuff like that. And I just love when he like comes out. He's like he has his leg scarred. He's like barely holding it together, and then all these people will line up like what's going on, and he's just like if I have to do that again, I'm not going to survive. So let me appeal to their sense of self interest. Like, hey, there's a stack of credits, or I think he says like I don't know if there's a stack of money, but he's implying that there's like something of value right left
Yeah.
behind. It's like you can have it, or we can do this thing. We can fight it out, and they're kind of just like they just like nervously like walk around him into the back, and it's like okay, that's we dissolve the tension now. But yeah, you don't get that with Boba like at all, right? Like, it feels completely like a different show in a way. It's kind of odd. I was gonna say okay because we haven't really like the last time I talked to you about this was like the
Yeah,
first episode, so there's
yeah.
like a lot of gaps and a gulf of stuff that's kind of in the middle that we don't really talk about. I what did you think about Mando? Basically, he's kind of just been exiled. Like, is he really gonna? You think he's gonna find a way back into the whatever clan? I forget the name of the clan, if there is even
You know?
a name for it. Like he's just kind of on his own. He has a hot rod starship now that he can't really carry bounties in. So like, well, I don't know what he's gonna do here on out. It's just like this was supposed to be Boba's show, but really, I feel like most of the outcome, most of like the impact is on Mando more than anything.
Yeah. Uh, the, I feel like as I've been getting older and watching Star Wars, the sort of like dogmatic factions we see, whether that is the Jedi with the sort of binary that Luke presents Grogu with, or even the sort of you removed your helmet, you're gone, very hard and fast rule that Mando is faced with. It becomes frustrating, and I kind of hope that frustration is explored more, because I think personally, I think it'd be kind of disappointing if season three comes around and he's like, well, yep, I removed my helmet, so now I gotta do whatever I can to like make it up to them. I
I
actually
hope
think,
not. Yeah,
yeah, I hope that that actually becomes like a sort of point of opposition, like Grogu rejected his order, Mando rejected his order. We're gonna create something new. I think that could be super interesting. So I wouldn't be surprised if like his remove, because the other thing is like there's literally three Mandalorians that are together, and they're like, "Oh, he took off your helmet. Now there's only two. Goodbye." So, there's so few of them that I think they will become like core characters, especially with the dark saber being in play and everything. But I think that the concept of that exile is going to probably hang over the show.
I wonder if we're going to see some overlap because now we know, like, it's been confirmed that Sabine will be in the Ahsoka show. So I'm wondering, are we
Yes.
going to get some kind of dark saber reunion? Is this going to be? Are we just going to have Mandalorians in every aspect of Star Wars going? Are they the new Jedi or something going forward? Like we're just going to have Mandalorian factions all over the place. Yeah, the okay. So my issue with the whole Grogu thing and like having to choose between the
Yeah.
lightsaber and his little cute little mail of armor is that I feel, I mean, as a viewer watching Grogu and kind of just having to fill in the gaps in my mind, like obviously he's gonna choose Mando. Like that's his like father figure. That's the person he has like way more of a connection with. And then also I felt from Luke, it felt kind of hypocritical, sort of in a way, because Luke, from what I understand, has this mentality of, I mean, they don't outwardly say it, but it's like he's doing away with like the traditional Jedi Order like restrictions. Again, maybe I'm kind of just imposing my or like projecting my thoughts on this. I don't know if it's actually true, but I just feel like being so kind of like you can do this or this, but you can't do both is kind of just are we sure we can't do that? Because we've shown that like prohibiting attachment doesn't work out for the Jedi Order in the end. Like, are you sure you don't want to, do you want to issue a little baby an ultimatum? Like, you know what I mean? It just feels kind of like I feel like we just have that because Grogu has to survive because we seen in Force Awakens that the temple is destroyed and everything. So it's like we have to eliminate like, oh yeah, he's not going to stick in the order because that means he ends up dying. If he ends up dying, it's like what are we going to do with the character going forward and stuff. So I don't know. What did you think? What did you think about that, Abram?
Well,
If anything,
here's the honest truth, and the
as you
cynical
get older,
here's my cynical answer. When they built the Naboo starfighter and they replaced the astromech droid spot in the ship with a little like a glassed in dome,
uh,
only one thing fits in there, and that's Grogu. So I didn't need any. I didn't need to. My problem with the binary choice is like it's not a choice because obviously he's going back with Mando.
right, right.
It's like it's more of just like an arbitrary plot decision that I hope also, like with the exile thing, has some sort of like thematic or plot level ramification moving forward. But I didn't really feel any tension from the choice because like we just spent the last 20 minutes building a starship that has a spot for Grogu to sit. So it's like whatever. But
I love those callbacks. I love
yeah,
because it's so weird for us to like that whole scene where he's like assembling the ship and he's like
yeah,
that really shouldn't have been that long, but I didn't mind it. I did not mind at all that it was that long.
yeah,
I loved like how the Jawas. First of all, she dated a Jawa. Like What? Like, okay, going forward,
Yeah.
I love like the concept of the Jawas are like if there's anything you need, like we're the ones to get it for you. Like we'll find a way. And then we get the callback with a giant pipe being the same one that's on the Star Destroyer on the Death Star when like they stop the the walls in A New Hope.
Yeah.
I love that callback. The when they're kind of just like tinkering around building. It's so cool to have like because we don't really have moments to just exist in Star Wars, right? We have a lot of like story, plot point. And here we kind of get this moment where it's just, you know what? It's just a couple of grease monkeys, just have like, she's like, don't sign off on it yet. Like, wait till she's done and then, like, think about it. And so they assemble it, they put it together, take it for a test flight, do the Boonta Eve classic to the beggars. Oh my god, are you kidding me? We get the ramp where Anakin goes off. We see, like, oh, that was such a cool throwback. Like, that episode 5 had so much like love for Phantom Menace. Absolutely loved that stuff.
Yeah, Bryce Dallas Howard just filled that episode with fun moments like that. It made me really care about Peli because I always found Peli to be like kind of annoying, but also a little bit endearing in Mandalorian. But here,
I
that
like
kind
her.
of that balance swung in the other direction where I find her mostly endearing, just a little bit annoying, which I think is the intent. Um, I agree. I love that sequence of building the ship because yeah, it gives us time to just stop and talk with the Jawas and the pit droids and put together the ship and they're bantering back and forth and Peli is trying to upsell him on this hunk of junk and I've always liked that Naboo starfighter design, so
Hmm.
I thought that entire moment was great. But there's also other cool little moments in that episode, like when Din has to board the public transportation and they're like no weapons and he's just
Weapon
like
weapons are my religion.
just like one after another off of his legs, his arms, his hip holsters, everything.
You know what it reminds me of? You've probably seen Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End, where
Yeah.
a similar scene with Keira Knightley's character, where Elizabeth Swann she has to like pull out all these guns, and then she's like, and then she pulls out one from like a very big gun from her like rear from the behind,
Yeah.
and the people are just looking at her like Jesus Christ, how do you have like all these like that scene was like this feels like it was like inspired by Pirates of the Caribbean. So I love that. I love that how we have that the recurring themes. Right, it's like weapons are part of my religion. Like I forgot he had that quote. I forgot he even said that. And then like we have like he's on the ship and then like there's always like if you ever use public transportation or been on an airplane, there's always like that kid who just like stares at you. Right, there's just
Yes.
like looking at or like if they're sitting next to you and they just kind of like they just look at you and then like Mando's kind of like just kind of like whatever about it. And then at the end he's in that he goes off to space and we catch up and then like the kid's like looking out the window and he's kind of just like yeah that's right that's me like it's not important it's just a really cool moment. It's just I love those little tiny things because the little tiny things are what add up to like what you remember the most from like shows and stuff like that.
Speaking of little tiny things in that, baby Rhodians are very cute. I really like that a lot. I thought he was very endearing, that little kid. Um, I think we got to talk about the beginning of episode 6 now.
Absolutely, go ahead.
So this is where we get into what I found to be egregious material, which is the Luke stuff. Um, and so this to me, I really didn't like for a number of reasons.
Okay.
I think the main one is just that's not Mark Hamill. It's never going to be Mark Hamill. And I think what's frustrating about that is not only do I think that there's like sort of like a dubious quality to the ethics of not only deep faking an actor's face, but then using AI generation for their voice as they did for Luke. Um, because it not only does it look uncanny, if you start paying attention, the number of times that Luke's lips are in frame when he's talking is very few. It's just like the technology isn't there yet, and even if when it is there, I think it's weird to try to like recreate these people, especially in a universe like Star Wars when there's an opportunity for that to be literally anybody else. You could have done the let's introduce Kyle Katarn here. We could have done that, or we could have just had it
That would have
be
been dope. That would have
yeah,
been dope.
or it could have been Ahsoka, or it could have been Quinlan Voss, or it could have been hell, it could have been why am I blanking on his name
Well,
now?
we did get
Kanan
Ahsoka.
Jarrus. Yeah, but it's
Mm.
like it could have been well actually no, he would have been Padawan at this point in time, I believe. But the point is it could have been so many other Jedi other than Luke, and it's just like, oh, that's such a good opportunity to not do what you did.
Now I'm fixated on because that would have been so cool if it was like like
Yeah.
back in the end of Mando season 2. Like, what if it was Katarn who like showed up
Yeah.
and it's like, oh, like the Titan. Like, I think that I would have been more excited for that than for Luke for again,
Yeah.
just because then it would have been canonizing Kyle's character, which is like something that I would absolutely love for them to do. I will give him props though because at least here, I think after seeing him in Mando at the end of season 2, we saw Luke, and people were like this is so bad. Like, there's no way like we're ever gonna get like this much Luke again. And then lo and behold, we get more Luke. But
Yeah.
at least he looks a lot better than he did the first time. Like,
Yes.
they hired I guess so. You probably know this. There was I think he was like some kind of YouTuber or some graphics artist or something like that, some deep faker person who took the original from Mando season 2 and like actually uploaded like his version where he like improved the way Luke looked and everything. And like Lucasfilm like outright like just hired the guy. And I was like, I wonder why they would hire him, like unless they're gonna do more Luke. And well, now we know because they were gonna do more Luke, right?
Yeah.
And so like you're right, it is off putting, although it's not nowhere near as bad as like it was last season. So
Yeah.
like if you just kind of passively look at him and don't try to look too like deep, then it's not that off-putting. But you're right, I did notice that most of his speak, because when we do see him, sometimes he's just looking and just staying quiet or just nodding
Yeah.
or like something. He's not speaking, right? But then when the camera pans, we see Ahsoka, then we hear Luke's voice when Ahsoka is like, the focus of the camera. So I did notice that. I imagine, I think Luke, not Luke, Mark Hamill mentioned that he did sign off on the use of
Yes, which is good.
the voice and everything. But like it does raise a concern, right? Just to kind of go off on a tangent, where like, for example, when we got in Rogue One, we got the return of Tarkin, right?
Yeah.
And like that was very like, oh, like this is so weird, like seeing his face, because it's clearly like it's not as good as the Luke one, where it's much more kind of plasticky and tight and kind of just CGI-ish. And I'm wondering, like, as we go forward, like, is there a limit? Like, is there like a legal limit to like who you're allowed to bring back? And like, I imagine you reach out to the state or the living, family and stuff. But like, if they can just do that for everything, like, I think that just present an ethical problem in the future where people are not getting royalties or collecting from that use. But that's the ethics conversation probably for some other time. I don't know.
Yes. No, I agree with you. It's certainly I, I think we're halfway down the slippery slope when we bring back Luke Skywalker for 20 minutes of Star Wars television. So I feel like we're gonna have to cross that sort of bridge about when and why and how do we do this to actors imminently. Right. But if we are to just remove that, I think conceptually the idea of spending more time with Luke as this sort of teacher figure is an interesting idea, because I like to see that explored in the Jedi Knight games, and it's cool that we see the end of that in the sequel trilogy. But spending a little bit more time here is cool. I liked watching him train Grogu. I actually, even though I had problems with just Luke being in the first place, I absolutely love the stuff with the frogs. I thought that was so cute when they're meditating and Grogu's trying to eat the frog, and then Luke opens his eyes and makes him put the frog away, and then it goes to that wide shot and you see them facing each other, and Luke just closes his eyes and raises his hand, and all of the frogs go into the water, and Grogu turns and his mouth like goes agape, and he like tries to reach out for him, and then he just drops all the frogs back into the water. Like, that was such a fun moment of the Force and of the Master and the Apprentice and all that. I thought that moment was really, really special.
It is cool because we do kind of see it as like a closed circle now, right? Where we have like in Empire Strikes Back, where Luke is frustrated with his downed X-wing and stuff, and then Yoda just simply lifts it out of the water, and you have like I don't believe it, like that is why you failed, right? And now we have like the reverse, where Luke is not only the master, but now the species, like the species are reversed too now, because Grogu, is the same species as Yoda, and now he's being taught by someone who was taught by someone else of his own species. And so I kind of like how we have like a close circle kind of thing going on. And I mean, it's not as frustrating as lifting an X-wing, but like that example of like, because you think like at first he's scolding him for messing with the frog, right? Like he's always thinking about food, or he's kind of he's not taking it seriously, right? But then Luke kind of like, as a good teacher, you want to take whatever your student is interested in and make it a teachable moment, right? He does like, okay, frogs, I'll show you frogs, right? And so like, yeah, he lifts all the frogs up, And then Grogu, like, yeah, he has like the wide-eyed kind of like, whoa, like moment, right? And so I do like that because as I mean, I'm not like, a force teacher or whatever, but someone who works with children, like, you do want to appeal to children's base interest because that's the kind of stuff that's going to help make, it'll smooth over the learning process if you can like adapt it to something they're interested to. So I thought he was going to scold him, and then he's like, nah, like, okay, we'll play along. Okay, frogs, like, all right, I'll show you. And then, we get all the frogs. So I thought, yeah, you're right. It's a really, really cool moment. And then he does the same thing where he puts him on his back and runs off. And then the really funny thing, Grogu can't walk very far, so he does like the little force hops for which are just like little force hops. I love that. That's so cute. It's just another thing where, like, I mean, they could have just carried him on his back, but like, no, let's make this funny. Use the force and like move him around. I thought that was funny. I love that. But yeah, I was kind of, when he's talking to Ahsoka, for me that was kind of one of those moments where it's like, this is cool because Ahsoka knew his father, right? We have Obi-Wan who knows, obviously he talks to Obi-Wan who knew his father also, but like, I like the head canon now where we have an idea where Luke now has multiple secondhand accounts of who like his father was, right? Because Ahsoka, the apprentice of my father and stuff. Like, I just like how that's now part of like the canon where Luke knows Ahsoka, right? I think that's really cool. But at the same time, I have to go back to what you said, and yeah, I mean, we don't need more Luke. We really don't. It's nice we kind of have like that, a little more closure, but we also didn't really need that much more closure. Yeah. So it's just the nice stuff that they kind of put in there. But when you have 7 episodes focusing on a completely different character, maybe it's not the best use of the time allotted to you.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel. I mean, that's kind of how I feel about the show as a whole, to be honest. It's like it's full of so many awesome moments. And even in the finale, which I was kind of middling on, there were cool shots, like as you said, when Din and Boba are coming down together, or
Yeah.
Even, I think even the low points here are dotted with fun moments. Like I do love in the episode, we kind of glazed over the quest to get Boba Fett's starship back, to be politically correct about
the fire spray, Abram, the fire spray. Yes. He says my fire spray ship, and it's like, that's why they changed the name. They knew it was gonna come back again.
Yeah, and like, I liked when they broke into the kitchen and we see the droid looks like chopping up all the food and everything, and the little droid.
That poor droid. Oh, can you imagine being in a situation where you just don't want to be conscious? Like, that's so upsetting for me when he just like, that thing is terrified, and he lifts it up and he just goes for his off switch. He's like, I don't want to live through this, and I'm just like, I wish we had one of those, because I would have used the off switch so many times in my life. It's just like, it's like he's just panicking, and I just like, it's funny too how Boba's like kind of just hobbling around in this kitchen trying to get, and like, oh, he's too big to get, to reach him and stuff, and it's just really funny. It gave me like Home Alone vibes, kind of, where he's just like trying to catch, it's trying to catch this little rascal, and when he finally pins him, he's like, I can't deal with this, like, it's just hilarious. I like how we have that moment where like where's your ship, and he shows like the little hologram, right, the little hologram of where your ship is stored, and it's like, okay, how many people are between us and the ship, and it's like all these little, it's like, oh, it's like at least 30 people, and it's like, oh man, how are we gonna get through all of that? And yeah, he gets the fire spray back and everything, but I like how he immediately, first thing he does when he gets his ship is he hunts down the bikers, the biking gang. And then I always thought it was a little weird that the bikers would go after the Tusken, the Tuskens in general. And so when we have that moment where like the Pikes, like the head of the Pikes syndicate's like, no, like I misdirection and stuff like that, and I was like, okay, that actually makes way more sense. I'm glad like that was like, explained to us later on, because I just found it like, how, what's like, what do the bikers know connection wise to Boba, to the Tusken Raiders? So yeah, I like that we got some a little more clarification on that. But I felt like this was a missed opportunity to introduce was it the Black Sun Syndicate? Yes. Or the Crimson Dawn? I'm sorry. Yes. The Crimson Dawn, because I remember in our first impressions video, we thought like, oh, what is this other sinister power that the Hutts, the twins, are afraid of? Like, oh, like someone else has a claim to Tatooine. And I was thinking like, oh, it's gonna be the Crimson Dawn, or like some other of the established like prior like crime groups. And then it's not that, and it's just kind of just feels like, oh, like I think when it was revealed that the Pike Syndicate was like the main like it was just because it's like a faceless and like they literally just wear masks all the time. It's just like this faceless organization. I felt like that kind of made me not care so much about
Yeah.
them. And I was like, this could have been like a cool moment to kind of wrap things up around with Solo or one of the other like, not they haven't introduced Prince Zizor, I forget what his name is, or whatever, but like just I don't know. I felt like a missed opportunity to just have like a no face kind of just put some words together that's the crime group about and then the whole issue with spice where like we have to go through to to deliver spice, and it's like you guys we have space travel, like you have to go through the desert, you can't just fly off from where you get it. Like I don't know, maybe I'm being a little too nitpicky, I'm thinking too hard about it, and I probably should just turn off my brain and enjoy Star Wars, but that's what we do, Abram. That's what we do
Yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm kind of reaching the end of my thoughts here. As we've been saying, as we just talked about, there are really cool moments sprinkled throughout, and I think we get off to a really good foot, but then we just end up meandering. And even if we meander into some really well put together Star Wars content like that episode 5, it just doesn't. The sum of those parts isn't what I was hoping for.
Yeah, just unless I think of something else. One last one of the last things I want to bring up is in the series finale where we have Boba's like he's like in the burnt out remains of the casino and everything. He's like checking in with his people with his little communicator, and it's like, okay, we got these people in this quadrant. We got Chrysanthemum over here. We got the Gamorrean guards over here at the little airport, shuttle station. And he's like, no, like we got everything like handled. And it's like at most you have like 3 people per section of the city, and it's like you think that's gonna oh, it seemed like, oh no, we got people like before like the Freetown residents show up. It's like, oh no, we got people, and it's like your 2 Gamorreans, your 4 mods, the one Wookiee who you send to the Trandoshan territory, which was a bad idea in general, and then you have, was there anybody else? Oh no, Fennec was with him and Din was with him. So yeah,
Yeah.
he has a Wookiee, 4 modders, 2 Gamorreans, and that's him saying we got this town covered. Like what the hell, man? Come on! Like what? I just that was so funny because then like they quickly get picked apart, right? Like the Gamorreans get pushed off the cliff, which was bad placement. First of all, they fall off the cliff. Chrysanthemum gets just mauled by the Trandoshans. They just like completely. I don't know how he got away. He got away somehow. They like overwhelmed him, and he still
Yeah.
was limping back. And then we have the modders come under fire by the I always forget their names. They're called
The Pikes.
Aqualish.
Oh no. Oh yes, the Aquash in the quarter.
Aquash.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, they're under fire. Fennec saves them and stuff, and it's just like Boba, like you were not ready for war. You were not ready for war. And then the Freetown people do show up at the end. The Weequay, the bartender, like he kind of came through in the end, so that was cool. What did you think about the end? About the implications of our boy, Mr. One Timothy Oliphant?
Yeah. Cobb Vanth.
There we
He's
go.
very cool.
Such a cool guy.
Like I don't really know what the intent is there. I mean, the thing about it is Timothy Oliphant is an established and respected TV actor, and I think he gives a really great performance. I really like the character of Cobb Vanth.
It's just a cool Western
Yeah,
style, like sheriff, like the marshal. He's dope.
yeah, he's super cool. I really like when he stops the Pikes with the spice at the beginning of episode 6 and all that. So I really hope he comes back, but I'm confused about what his role is going to be
He's
because
some cyborg sheriff or something.
yeah, because like that's what happened to Fennec.
Right.
She just got modded back together. So I'll be curious to see why that was the post credit scene. Why that was the final little tease here, because they could have done anything, and they had Cobb Vanth in the back of the tank being repaired. So we'll see. I'm glad he's not dead, although I didn't expect him to be dead, frankly. So
Yeah, it was one of the when he died initially. I was like, no, like he was laying in the ground, knocked out or whatever. But I'm like, Star Wars like usually doesn't commit to deaths, usually, especially for high profile actors or like characters. I mean, Cad Bane being the exception, right? I felt like they kind of felt like they had to like tie up his story with him. But with Cobb Vanth, I'm like, because I remember in between episode 6 and episode 7 coming out, I saw like people were showing images spreading on Twitter and stuff of like when he gets shot by Cad, it's like in the upper shoulder, right? He gets shot in the shoulder. I'm like, yeah, like shoulder shots aren't usually fatal, so I didn't think they were gonna kill him off. And then when we got like that confirmation with the mid credit scene, I'm like, okay, thank God, like okay, good, they didn't commit him.
I mean, when Cad Bane unloads into the deputy but gives the marshal one shot, I'm like, okay, I see what we're doing here.
I saw this funny meme. Well, I thought it was funny. I know you don't care much for Star Wars humor, but it was it's that famous Bob Marley song. Is like where Cad's like, I shot the sheriff, and the guy,
Yes.
and then Bob Marley's like, but you didn't shoot the deputy, and he just doesn't say anything. But you didn't shoot the deputy, right? Because he just freaking unloaded it in that guy.
The meme I saw that I thought was funny was it was after we learned that Jawas can just find anything, you just don't ask questions. It's a shot from Phantom Menace of Qui-Gon saying they need new hyperdrive. And then it instead of talking to Watto, it's Peli being like, okay, I'll ask the Jawas to get you one, and then it just cuts to directed by George Lucas. And then Phantom Menace right
That would
there,
have ended.
so.
That would have ended the whole situation, right?
But
We can't do that though. Star Wars needs to have conflicts and things that don't make sense to keep the plot going forward.
yeah. Any other thoughts on Book of Boba Fett?
Um, Not really much else. I mean, I think one of the last things I just wanted to leave off was I feel like why didn't Fennec just do that in the first place, where she just goes over and it completely eliminates the entire competition in one single stroke, and it's like. I feel like that scene from Infinity War where like Scarlet Witch just takes out Proxima Midnight, and it's like you had her up there this whole time. It's like you had Fennec the whole time. You didn't think about like just straight out assassinating them. Like I thought that was funny. Again, overly critical, but it's one of those things where it's like that she could have done it at night and it probably would have been even easier, you know? So I just thought it was funny how it's like at the start, it's like we're gonna send Fennec to go out do her own thing, and then we'll get the payoff for that thing at the end where she just hangs him, cuts him, stabs him, shoots him, and it's like, all right, Fennec, thank you for that. You could have done that earlier, but thanks.
I will say that I think Ming-Na Wen does a great job as Fennec Shand. I think Fennec Shand is a great character.
Yes.
I wish we got a little bit more of her, especially as the show winds down. But every time she came in as this sort of like shadowy overseer to get something done for Boba or to rescue the mods or anything, I think she was always great. So just got to give her a shout out before we wrap.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Other than that, Abram, I think we kind of covered everything. We talked the spice,
Yeah.
we talked about Freetown, we talked about the Pike Syndicate, the Tusken Raiders. And then because I don't think we really talked about it, just one. Star Wars again loves its Vision Quest. We saw them in the micro series, we saw it in everything, and then we had the one with Boba where he goes off into the desert, finds the one tree that exists in Tatooine somewhere, comes back. I love that though, because you know what? I do love how they kind of add a little deeper lore to the Tusken Raiders, where like just like how for like the Jedi, like the lightsaber is like a special, like you make it yourself. It's like something that's of kind of almost like a religious or ritualistic importance. The Tuscans have the same thing with their gaffy sticks, right? They construct them, they take it off this branch of a tree through some kind of lizard-induced hallucinogen, and like they have like they craft it, you chisel it yourself, you heat it up, you make it hard and with the iron and everything, and then you have like that dope dance scene. I think it's dope, the little ritualistic dance around the campfire, which apparently I found out was inspired by Tamura Morrison's Maori heritage. Like they do have
cool.
like that dance is actually very similar to what the Maori warriors kind of do growing up
awesome.
and stuff. So I thought that was really cool. They implemented his real life heritage into the show. We haven't really talked about, what do you think about Tamura Morrison's like overall portrayal of Boba Fett? Because I mean, for the most part, I thought he was just okay for the most. I know he does this thing where he is always smiling. I don't know why he's always smiling, but he's always smiling. Like whenever he has his helmet off, he just is always like smiling. I just love it. I think it's funny. But what do you think overall of his like as you the cinephile between the two of us?
Yeah. I think Tamora Morrison does a good job. I don't think that he's an actor with a lot of range, but
stiff. Okay.
Yeah, but I think he still does a nice job. I mean, he's just been associated with with Django and Boba and the voice of the clones for so long that he just feels right on screen. I don't
Yeah,
think
yeah.
it could have possibly been anyone other than him. So I didn't have any major issues with his acting at all. Although I didn't really feel like he had a ton of standout. Like, oh wow, in the alternate universe, or like Book of Boba Fett's nominated for like an Emmy Academy Award. I don't see like the moment they would show in the reel of best
The
acting
sizzle
moments.
reel of his
You know. But
this pivotal transformative Boba Fett like moment, right, of him like coming around to something. Yeah, I do get that. It's so jarring when I do see him in anything else. Like he's when I watch Aquaman, because he is Aquaman's dad in that movie,
oh wow, yes he is. I forgot about
and I
that.
remember just watching him like that's Jango Fett. That Jango Fett is Aquaman's dad. Like that's Jango Fett. Like I didn't see him as like whoever he was supposed to be, right? As Arthur's dad or whatever.
Yeah,
Like that's Jango Fett. So yeah, yeah, you're right. I think the range thing. I think it's almost like he's forever going to be typecasted as clone trooper, Boba Fett, Jango Fett, any
yeah,
variant of that in Star Wars. So yeah, I agree. All right, that's all I got.
yeah. I think the last thing we should just say is we'll be back in a couple months. Not for the next episode of my Star Wars show. It's we're getting back on schedule. We'll be back for another show in a couple months because Obi-Wan is not. It's right around the corner.
Yes.
May 25th. So we're what, 3 months? Just over 3 months away.
I'm surprised it's not May 4th, but yeah.
Is
May
it?
makes sense. Makes sense.
Yeah, May 25th. That's the anniversary of A New Hope, right? I think.
You're right. Yeah,
Yes.
that makes sense.
Yes.
You're right.
I saw people chattering about that online. I was like, that makes sense to me. That
Yeah.
makes sense. But
Do you, well, we'll talk. I was going to say, do you, no, we'll talk about
we'll talk.
Kenobi as we get there. Yeah.
Yes. But yeah, I think I basically spent my energy here on Boba Fett. Um, it was I think the show is okay. I enjoyed watching it, but just could have been more. So
It was just okay. Yeah, it was just okay. I feel like it's funny. I really think I would have liked the show more if it just had a different title, because then that would have set my expectations to be a little more realistic.
yeah. But Andrew, we don't really have a transition here, but you say something at the end of every episode. So why don't you take us out?
I do. I want to use a variation of this because I want to see if you recognize it. I know for a fact you recognize it. Although I'm leaving, the force will be with you always.
Always love a little Battlefront 2
Yes. Okay, you got
to
it. You
end
got
out
it.
an episode. Talk to you later.
All right. Peace.